27th Mayor and Council meeting, and as usual, we will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to ask School Board Member Cather Stewart to lead us in the pledge. Thank you, Cather Stewart. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and it's been requested by Councilmember Zapata to pull 7 off. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Judy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tizer. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. I'll move number 7 to the beginning of just before Environmental and Public Works Department after the mayor's report. Next is the fun one. So I would like to, please come forward, and I would like to recognize our youth council, and I'm sure you're going to tell me all the wonderful work they've been doing, but then also what their special role will be in the Youth Day Parade.
There we go. Good evening. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you to the 2021-2022 Youth Advisory Council. And if I can have everybody stand up that's a member of that council. So this group consists of high school students throughout our community that have a passion for advocating for youth recreation programs in Roswell. This team was established to help advise, coordinate, and interface with the Roswell's Recreation Commission, the Recreation Parks Historic and Cultural Affairs Department, and other members of the community. This group meets monthly over the course of the school year to discuss content, trends, participate in, and help to plan positive, youth-focused events and initiatives that better the community. Examples of some of these events and initiatives include the Strategic Master Plan for the Recreation and Parks Department, the Adaptive Program Support, which is labeled the Roswell Adaptive Volunteer Experience, creation of the Leadership and Organization Bylaws, coordination of local food and book drives, and participation in the annual Roswell Youth Day celebration. Part of their Youth Day initiative was to create and help design this year's Youth Day t-shirt design. So as you'll see in front of you, that is the design that this group put together from start to finish. So, Mayor and Council members, please join me in welcoming the first ever Roswell Youth Advisory Council and take this opportunity to invite them up to read this year's Youth Day Proclamation.
Mic on.
Test.
Test.
Test. Hello.
I won't hear you.
Hello. Oh, okay. Is this? Is this?
I think that just muted you.
Nope.
So, Youth Mayor Wiggins, can I please ask that you invite all the youth councils to announce and kind of introduce themselves and let everybody know who they're representing?
Yes. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start on this end. So go ahead.
Hi, my name's Katie Wisher. I go to Milton High School, and I'm representing Matt Judy.
Hi, I'm Isabella Zapata, and I'm representing Mike Palermo.
Hi, my name is Lavinia Kidd, and I'm representing Mary Wilsey.
Hello, my name is Allie Wiggins. I go to Roswell High School, and I'm representing Mayor Lori Henry.
Hello, my name is Chloe Chang. I go to Centennial High School, and I am representing Matt Tizer.
Hello, I'm Matthew Stone. I go to Roswell High School and I'm representing Christine Hall.
Hi, my name is Ella Rent, and I go to Milton, and I'm representing Marcelo Zapata.
Hi, I'm Ellery. I go to Roswell High School, and I'm representing Mary Robichaux.
Hi, I'm Cooper Davis. I go to Centennial High School and I'm representing Chief Conroy.
Hello, I'm Maggie Flood, and I'm representing Joe Panino, Fire Chief.
So Youth Mayor Wiggins, we'd love to hear about your,
Well, we've got two other introductions to make. So I'm a stand-in, not quite youthly anymore. I wish I was, but I have 4 kids, so I feel like that sort of qualifies me. But we have Katha Stewart is here from our Fulton County board and from Fulton County Schools, excuse me, representing all of our schools here in Fulton County, and also represents this area of our community, and is here to not only kick off but also celebrate with us. So Katha, thanks so much for being here. And you bet. And we have Angela Parnham, who's here from our Roswell Recreation Commission, representing our commission, who are volunteers that help us set policy, and who the Youth Council will be helping as we work on our initiatives throughout the year. So Angela, thanks so much for being here to represent them.
now, Youth Mayor Wiggins, would you please read our Youth Day proclamation?
Oh, sorry. Thank you. This is the 71st Annual Youth Day Proclamation. Whereas the youth of Roswell are an important part of the community, and whereas the youth of Roswell represent the future of our great city, and whereas the city of Roswell for the past 71 years has celebrated its youth with a citywide parade and community event, and whereas the theme for the 71st Annual Youth Day celebration is Stronger Together. Now, therefore, I, Allie Wiggins, Youth Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim Saturday, October 9th, 2021 as Youth Day in the City of Roswell, and I can call upon all our citizens, young and old, to help us celebrate and promote this most honored day in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor and council members. We appreciate the opportunity to introduce you to this group. They have a lot of great initiatives that are going to be coming up over the next year, so we hope that you'll celebrate those successes with them. So appreciate your opportunity this evening. Thank you.
Invite everybody to come and take
I
a picture.
understand that Youth Council Member Stone has a motion to make.
She was speaking out of turn. You can say, Councilmember Hall, you weren't recognized.
Well, I wanted to get a 15-minute nap time during school for high schoolers. Maybe we can get rid of 5th period. That'd be nice.
Is there a second?
Just you.
I second.
And then ask all those in favor, please raise your hands.
All those in favor, please raise your hands.
And it passes unanimously.
It passes unanimously. And then I'd like to welcome all of the Youth Day committee to come up and take a picture with us when you have a chance.
Should we have my Why don't you come down here? Yeah, I think that would be better. Everyone's so spread out, so. All right, just squeeze into this area here because we're going to try to get everyone in. Can we come together a little bit more in the center, maybe? Yeah. Okay. I'll have to crop this. All right, keep smiling. There we go. On an angle.
So while you're sitting, our youth officials are passing out stress balls with our logo on this year, just in case you need it for the meeting. So that's available there at the dais. Yes, yeah, in case you need to give it a toss at me later, that would be fine too. Thank you all.
And our Youth Advisory Council, while you are all very welcome to stay with us, please understand that we don't expect you to. I know it's a school night, and you might not have that nap in place by tomorrow. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you. Let's hear it for our Youth Council. The next item on the agenda is the reading of a proclamation recognizing October 2021 as Roswell Arts and Humanities Month. And we will also have a presentation by our Cultural Arts Division. Whereas the nation's arts organizations and institutions, the National Endowment for the Arts, the National Endowment for the Humanities, and the Arts and Humanities Councils of the 50 states and the 6 U.S. jurisdictions have regularly issued official proclamations on an annual basis designating October as National Arts and Humanities Month. Whereas the coronavirus has had a devastating impact on America's arts sector, with 99% of producing and presenting organizations having canceled events and artists being among the most severely affected segment of the nation's workforce. Yet, notwithstanding this fact, the arts have helped collectively lead us through the darkest times of the pandemic, lifting our spirits, unifying communities, and jump-starting the economy. Whereas the arts and humanities embody much of the accumulated wisdom, intellect, and imagination of humankind, and the arts and humanities enhance and enrich the lives of every American. Whereas the arts and humanities play a unique role in the lives of our families, our communities, and our country, and the humanities help diverse communities across the United States explore their history and culture. Whereas cities and states have celebrated the value and importance of culture in the lives of Americans and the health of thriving communities during National Arts and Humanities Month. Whereas the nation's arts and culture sector is a $919.7 billion industry that supports 5.2 million jobs, 4.3% of the nation's economy, and generates $27.5 billion in government revenue. And whereas artistic and creative expression resonates with us, challenges us, and teaches us important lessons about ourselves and each other. And the arts are vital components in critical thinking and igniting wonder and imagination. Whereas Roswell has a strong commitment to culture and arts, and this dedication drives the economic progress of our community for all of our residents and visitors, and is sure to entertain and enlighten all ages. Now therefore I, Lori Henry, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim October 2021 as Roswell Arts and Humanities Month and call upon our citizens to recognize and celebrate the impact and the importance of arts and humanities.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I know we press a button. October has been recognized as National Arts and Humanities Month for over 30 years. This celebration acknowledges the impact of arts and humanities on the wisdom, intellect, creativity, innovation, and imagination of humankind. The arts and humanities enhance and enrich the lives of every human across the globe and play a unique role in the lives of our families, our communities, and our diverse cultures. As art sectors begin to restart across the world, as seen through the joyous return of Broadway in New York and London's West End, we continue to witness how arts and humanities lay the foundation for connecting all cultures and individuals. Now is the time to invest resources into ensuring arts and humanities programs and experiences remain successful and impactful. Just last week, the U.S. Conference of Mayors adopted a resolution urging increased support for arts and cultural institutions in our nation's rebuilding and recovering from COVID-19. And by doing so, they recognize the crippling impacts of COVID-19 on artists, art workers, and our arts and cultural organizations who are integral to enabling our communities to survive and thrive economically, culturally, and emotionally. This resolution resoundingly calls to integrate arts, culture, and the creative economy into our national recovery and revitalization efforts. So, as we reflect on last year and Roswell's efforts to ensure access to the arts and humanities, our Cultural Arts Division of Performing, Creative, and Cultural Arts adjusted through supply rentals that allowed at-home studies, live streaming, instructional Zoom classes, and virtual events. We continued to show not only the importance but the demand for our opportunities related to the arts and humanities. This year, to celebrate the restart of the arts, we are launching Roswell's newest and most festive fleet member. Please welcome the Creation Station to Roswell. This mobile pop-up art studio will further increase access to the arts and humanities. We will be listing the Creation Station's whereabouts on roswellgov.com/create and across all social media. Find the Creation Station and get creative. From crafts to experiments and educational exhibits, the Creation Station is here to spark creativity throughout our parks and community. We invite all of you to join us in welcoming the Creation Station at Art Block, a celebration of the arts and humanities. This event will take place on October 16th on the grounds of the Roswell Cultural Arts Center. It kicks off with a puppet show and will feature community partners and organizations that will engage our youth with art and creativity. A special thank you to members of the Cultural Arts team who are working hard on this inaugural event: AJ Argentina, Art Center West Coordinator, and Cultural Arts Supervisors Corinne Sutherland and David Crow. Finally, please continue to show your local art institutions, organizations, cultural centers, and the overall creative economy your support, because the arts and humanities are truly at the heart of being human, both individually and as a collective. Roswell Recreation Parks, Historic, and Cultural Affairs invites everyone in the community to recognize the contributions the arts and humanities have on our daily lives, our culture, and our history. Thank you so much.
Let's hear it for our Recreation, Parks, Historic, and Cultural Affairs Department. And what a great initiative. Is there an age requirement for this?
All ages, kids of all ages, and all the young at heart.
Thank you so much. I hope that you all will seek out the Creation Station. Is that what it was? Yes. I'll be looking for it around town. So, and we should post on social media when we see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On the
Awesome.
back of the van, there is a hashtag. So
Perfect.
you can post that hashtag and we'll find you.
Thank you so much. Y'all do a great job. The next item on the agenda is the approval of a resolution establishing the Local Hire Job Initiative Program, and I'll turn this over to Councilmember Judy.
Thank you, Mayor. When we first started to look at this, this came out of conversations we were having about bringing more businesses and jobs to the city. And through, I think we had 2 or 3 committee meetings on this, I believe we've come up with a great program, which is an arrow in our quiver to incentivize jobs in the city of Roswell for citizens in the city of Roswell. So I'm hoping this is just our first endeavor, our first arrow in the quiver for us to create more incentives for not only the residents of Roswell and jobs, but also businesses to hire residents of the city of Roswell and to do business here in the city. So hopefully tonight we'll have a unanimous vote on this approval, and this will be the first of many as we incentivize business in our city.
Does council have any questions? Councilmember Palermo.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor Henry. I think this has been a good process with multiple good discussions and a lot of good teamwork. You know, I want to actually really thank Councilman Zapata and Councilmember Hall for when they had first really requested funding back in I believe it was 2020 for what they were calling CPR, which I believe was the care packages Roswell of how we incentivize and support our business. And I definitely applaud Councilman Judy for working with staff and bringing this forward. I disagreed when the first draft or the second draft, one of the iterations, the salary requirement was really, lower than the typical salaries within Roswell, and there wasn't the health insurance aspect with the lower salary. But I feel there was a little bit of compromise here, and I will be gladly supporting this tonight, and certainly hope we can do a lot more, because I feel this doesn't go nearly far enough, but at least glad to see we're hopefully going to have some unanimous support to be doing something here.
Additional comments from council? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Seeing no one approach, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Wilsey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Judy. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is from number 7 that was on the consent agenda, which is the approval for the mayor and our city administrator to sign a contract with Brandstetter Carroll, Inc. for the professional services in the amount not to exceed $95,000 for the Recreation, Parks, Historic, and Cultural Affairs, and for the 5-year master plan. I'll turn this over to you, Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. See, I think that, we need to have some discussion here, like we have in committee meeting. And I want to remind everybody that there was 4-3 the vote in committee meeting to move this item forward. So I think it's worth to have a discussion again in front of the public on a mayor and council regular meeting.
Councilmember Zapata, would you like to lead us in that discussion? Councilmember Palermo.
Thank you. So I think there's 2 important aspects here. What we saw earlier from the great presentation that staff led us through regarding the strategic plan and the 2,000 residents that had provided feedback. One of the common themes that had one of the higher percentages dealt with really just concern around trust and transparency. And I think this process, unfortunately, is a great illustration of that. In all my years, I've never seen anything like tonight, where we have what we call a consent agenda, and that's where That's where I've served with two mayors, and it's the mayor's right and their duty to kind of just identify what has consensus and what should go under the consent agenda versus the items that either require greater detail or do not have consensus. This was a 4-3 contentious debate at the committee meeting, and it was really hidden within the consent agenda instead of where it belongs. And why is that? By having it in the consent agenda, there's a couple things that happen. It removes the opportunity for the discussion, the public discussion around it. It removes the opportunity for its own vote. And I think what we're seeing and witnessing right here, it removes the opportunity or really that right of the liaison to be the one that's going to make the motion. So this is a parks item, and this should have been under Recreation and Parks Department, Councilmember Marcelo Zapata. And Councilman Zapata could make a motion that either this council agrees with or this council disagrees with, but ultimately he is the one that is the liaison over Parks and Rec and gives that focus and attention. So one major issue here is the process. Really disappointed to see this process. Number two is the content. And the analogy that Councilman Zapata had brought up at committee, I kind of want to expand with my own view of it, which is if you couldn't afford needed repairs in your house and you weren't contributing to your 401k, would you spend thousands of dollars on an architectural design of your dream house? Let's be honest, not the best use of the money if that's your situation. Well, that is the situation the city of Roswell is in. For our annual budget, we have annual maintenance needs within our parks. And the majority of this council decided to greatly underfund our maintenance of our parks. And so that ended up resulting in the fact that there was a request for approximately $360,000, which actually wasn't even covering all of the immediate maintenance needs within our parks. And then this council ended up greatly reducing that, cutting that by, I believe, over $300,000 for our annual maintenance. That is not what our parks deserve, and it's certainly not what our residents deserve. And to expand on it a little more, what's even more frustrating about it, I think it would be easy to argue that if we were in a low budget, tough year, then maybe even park maintenance needs to be cut. We had the highest budget in the history of Roswell this year, the highest budget in the history of Roswell, and we are not properly maintaining our parks. And we have that highest budget in the history of Roswell because for 2 consecutive years, according to Georgia law and in actuality, this majority of this council has decided to raise taxes on the people of Roswell because this year, although the millage rate went down, look at your assessments, look at your taxes. Most people ended up paying higher taxes, which by law we had to report to residents that their taxes were going up. So here's my request, and I hope the liaison of Parks and Rec will consider this. But the $95,000 that's being allocated or being proposed to be allocated towards a plan for future years, I request that instead we move that $95,000 over maintenance because in our annual budgets we need to maintain our parks. I know a councilman right here had suggested that maybe we should use our one-time funding for the annual maintenance, one-time funding from the federal government, which is to be used not for recurring items. Annual maintenance is a recurring expense. So again, I really hope the liaison over Parks and Rec will move this $95,000 till maintenance because again, it's great to have a plan. I love the idea of having a good plan. But it's more important and more urgent that we're investing in the maintenance of our parks because frankly, let's be honest, look at all the money we've spent the last 4 years on plans that we did not execute on. So that's my request.
Additional comments from council. Councilmember Tizer.
Thank you, Mayor. Since I'm the only one up here not running for re-election, I thought I'd explain what we've done. We knew we had almost $12 million coming from the federal government in COVID relief funds over the next 2 years. When we approved the budget, half of the money had already been received by the city. We also knew that these funds could be used for some of the programs that we would normally have had in our local annual parks budget. So instead of having you be taxed by the federal government and taxed again with your property tax, we reduced your property tax millage rate and we used the taxes that you paid to the federal government for the parks work, we will use it, if this council votes for that, to use it to pay for work on the parks over the next 2 years. This was simply a way to get the citizens of Roswell a tax break in these COVID times and be able to keep up with the needs of our park system. So, and one final comment, take a very close look when you get your city tax bill. The way the formula works, your assessment for tax purposes can only go up about 3%. Our millage rate decline was 4.8%. So if you do that math, I think you'll find that even if you went up the most you could, your number went down. Thank you.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just a point of clarification for Mr. Luckett. When we finalized the city budget, were we aware of the $12 million that was approved, I believe, after sometime later through another CARES Act amendment?
We were aware that we were receiving funding from the American Rescue Plan. There was some, I'm not sure of the exact date when we knew the exact amount. I think we were aware that it was around $12 million. That was the estimate at the time. That's my recollection of the timing of it all.
Thank you. And were there two issues of CARES funding?
The CARES funding was received last year. Are you talking about the
Two rounds of it that the city received, the one before the 12 million?
So that was money that we received through Fulton County last year, approximately $4 million.
Okay, so the 4 million and then the 12 million was later.
12 million, we've received half of that to date, and we'll receive half of it approximately 1 year.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions from council. Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. So, you know, let me correct a point here from my colleague. I'm not running for re-election, so I have 2 more years. So he's not the only one. I'm not running for re-election either. So, so we are probably, I count 4 people here who is not running for re-election on this cycle. So my point is that, you know, we need to get in a habit to fund the regular basic maintenance of our parks for update, upgrades, and maintenance. So if we don't have the habit to do this in a regular basis, our parks start showing the age from the 70s, from the 80s, and that is not right. It's not right for Roswell, it's not right for the resident, it's not right for, you know, we are very well known by our very nice park system that is aging. Is the reality, it's aging. So if you got $310,000 out of 365 or so, that is not right. That is not right. So then come my second point, which is priority. How do you prioritize a budget? You do $95,000 for a 5-year master plan to pay to a consultant, or you invest this money today, or actually yesterday should be invested in our park system for basic maintenance. So the second point is priority. How do you prioritize your budget? So, and I think that getting in a habit of getting federal funds from time to time in a very special times is not right, because then you will forget to put money every year on maintenance, update, and upgrade of our park system. So, yeah, my comparison was like, you know, if you cannot afford your mortgage of your main house where you live with your family, how can you plan to buy a summer house on the beach when you barely can pay for your mortgage, or you can even pay for your mortgage? So again, this master plan 5 years is wonderful. It's a great initiative. It's a great idea. But let me tell you, today we have a need on investing in maintenance right now, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So I don't agree of allocating $95,000 for a 5 years master plan, another plan that we are creating here. But then again, we are lacking of execution. We are lacking of getting things done of this master plan. We master plan, but then we don't pay for maintenance. And that is not right. And that is not right. And this was the reason, one of the reasons that I voted against this budget. So again, I won't be able to support something like that.
Councilmember Judy.
Well, 1980 is when I started in the parks. Living here, I was 5 years, four and a half years old, 5 years old. To say that I don't want to fully fund the parks at all the time is so disingenuous. I can't even get there. My 9-year-old son's there. We knew how we were going to fund the maintenance budget. It was going to be fully funded. And to say we weren't, and to say we're going to get in a habit of forgetting to fund the parks maintenance is just disingenuous to the max. It's political rhetoric. We just sat in an hour meeting about our strategic plan. This was one of the objectives that came out of the strategic plan, to do a 5-year plan for the parks. That was passed. That's a policy of the city. This is nothing but political rhetoric. No basis in fact is being, and it's being continually repeated over and over. Just because you repeat it over and over, or people repeat it over and over, doesn't make it true. As Councilman Tizer said, we knew the maintenance would be fully funded. I find it offensive and misleading to say we won't fully fund the parks this year and for years to come and put all money in it that we can. We knew we had the money. We knew how we were going to do it. It was a different way of budgeting. Quit misleading the public.
Councilmember Wilsey.
Yes, thank you. And you know, beyond the financing the maintenance issues that I believe we have discussed previously and have those funds allocated, I just want to discuss a little bit the value of the strategic plan. I mean, over the past few weeks, I've had a number of conversations with residents who have asked me questions about what the plan is for the properties at Hembry and Chafin. They've asked me what the plan is for 7 branches. We need to do the strategic plan to go out to the public, do some public engagement, and be able to set our priorities and develop our plan for the next 5 years. That's the purpose of doing the strategic plan, and that's one of the reasons why I believe that that's what we need to do, is go back and find out what we're funding and what we're planning to do with these properties, and where the citizens would like to see funds directed in the future.
Councilmember Palermo.
Thank you, Mayor Henry. I've certainly heard a lot of political rhetoric tonight, and I've heard a lot of just division and the constant never working towards any opportunity for consensus. So to clarify, one person said they were the only person here not running for re-election. I have not announced or decided if I will run for re-election or not, but that person that said it has announced they are running for state representative. And this is not about any of that. This is about fiscal responsibility, and this is an exact example of a lack of fiscal responsibility, because an annual maintenance needs to be paid for out of an annual budget. That's being fiscally responsible. It's not just hoping for federal dollars that are meant to go towards one-time needs, not towards recurring. Maintenance is a recurring expense that this council voted on not approving. And again, it's not that we were in a tough year, it's we're in a year where the budget was the highest it's ever been. And again, by Georgia state law, we had to report the fact that we raised taxes. Believe me, with this many politicians up here, there'd be a lot of advertisements that your taxes were lowered if they were lowered. They were not lowered, which is why all that was discussed was your millage rate was lowered, not your taxes. And so, again, we have plans. We don't execute on the plans. Let's stop spending so much money on plans and actually execute on the things that Roswell needs, like their parks being taken care of, which is not currently funded.
Councilmember Judy.
Thank you. Again, if you say it over and over again, it doesn't make it true. There was not hope that we were going to be able to fund it. There was facts that we were going to be able to fund it. We know that in a recurring budget, in years where we don't have it, we will have to fund it. We had it, we made a decision, now let's move on from this political rhetoric.
Councilmember Tizer.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of questions for Director Luckett, if you could step forward a second. Our budget has a line for maintenance for our facilities, general facilities, which I believe also would include some park maintenance. Can you explain the difference between the maintenance budget and then this particular 385 account that they're talking about now? So specifically, are there funds in the budget for park maintenance? And then what does the 385 that they're talking about, I think they call it the 385 fund in the Parks Department. What does that specifically do?
So I will say that in the operating budget that was approved back in May, there is operating dollars, generally speaking, for maintenance type repairs. I'll let Director Leatherman speak about the 385 plan. That's kind of what we're referring to tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Luckett. So the 385 plan derives itself out of its $385,000 is generally what we request on an annualized basis to invest into our various park facilities and recreational assets. And this can include trail maintenance, tennis court maintenance, fence lines maintenance, scoreboard replacement. It is not our staffing or the supplies associated with maintaining our parks and facilities. And so as things in our parks age, we use the 385 plan and honestly a number of other replacement plans to tackle various projects. By extension, we're also working on consolidating all of that information into a comprehensive facility condition assessment that will help us to articulate better what those priorities should be in the future and the total cost of those maintenance items in the future that would include sidewalks and asphalt repairs and the like, and that will be coming to committee here in the fall.
Thank you, guys.
And Mr. Leatherman, while we've got you, could you please tell us why you have requested the $95,000? Of what importance is it to your department?
So as we look at our 5-year strategic master plan, the intent is truly to build on the goals and objectives of the community on a cyclical basis. And the last time that we really reached out to our community was about 6 years ago in 2016 to really articulate from the community's perspective where our priorities should be so that we can make recommendations to this council. This includes land acquisition for the future. It includes what types of fields and facilities should we be advocating for, but it also includes items that we should be prioritizing essentially from the community's perspective. What are the highest and best uses of the resources that we have made available? And items include, from this last year, I'll use just our gymnastics expansion facility. So just before the pandemic hit, we were prepared to present to this mayor and council the expansion of our gymnastics facility. It's a fully designed project that essentially is a shovel-ready project. But COVID was one of those elements that took that out because we lost our fund balance in the Recreation Participation Fund. It doesn't change the priority. We just have to deal with the fiscal constraints that were dealt at the given time. The River Park Master Plan, the execution of that continues to be a priority. That's a Tier 1 priority of our existing plan. You see it show up in the citywide strategic plan as a continued priority. It will likely show up in this next plan should it be approved. But this mayor and council made the tough choice in really February and March of our budget process of 2019 to continue to fund the ASAN construction so that we are here today having a shovel-ready project from a fiscal perspective when there's state resources and federal resources available that we can go out into the grant market and potentially apply for. So those are the types of priorities and initiatives, and there's program initiatives as well, that the master plan provides to us, and in turn we can advocate for to this mayor and council during the budget process. It also consolidates our public input process into a time-specific, time-constrained environment so that we have a really good direction, that we're not constantly planning, I think, to some of the conversation that's been happening today, but we can plan for a short period of time, set a direction on behalf of the community, and then look for resources and align our staff accordingly.
And we have a number of the pieces that have been executed throughout the Tier 1 and Tier 2 recommendations from our last 5-year master plan, and would expect to continue some of that work. And then finding what the new vision is if it's being revised. As we all know, I mean, our community continues to change. The census data is showing that. We know that we have community members that aren't necessarily represented in our current 5-year master plan. And so this planning effort would also help us to find the community members that don't engage directly with us and figure out why. Why is it, what are the barriers to entry where they don't feel either comfortable, confident, or have the resources to participate either in our parks, facilities, or programs.
Thank you, Mr. Leatherman. Additional comments, questions from council? Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Mr. Leatherman, since we have you right here, I just want to ask you a very simple, easy question. Were $310,000 requested by the Department of Recreation and Parks unfunded 3 months ago when this new budget was approved?
Yes.
Great, so yes. Okay, so that, that make it clear, because I hear a lot of numbers here, a master plan of the master plan. So that was a straight answer, yes. So this was unfunded, and this was requested by the Recreation and Parks Department, by all the employees who works in there and deserve to have these resources to make our parks more updated, upgraded, and better maintenance. So bottom line is that this was requested, was not approved 3 months ago. We already been 3 months into the new budget. So we've been wasting 3 months of, getting this money right there to work for the taxpayers and the people of Roswell. So that is the bottom line. That was requested and was not funded 3 months ago. So again, I love plans, but if you can execute them. If you cannot execute, plans is a waste of time and resources. If you can execute it on time, on budget, then that is very needed plans. But if not, what's the point? And we have a need right now of $310,000, no, right now, 3 months ago, and still unfunded. So again, it's priority. You want to generate more paper before getting done things that the taxpayers and the residents of Roswell will enjoy right now, or you want to just keep generating master plan and paper for the future, and then, like the director said, we have to find the way to fund this result from the master plan. So we cannot even afford today, so it's great to think about tomorrow, but let's work what is needed today. And that is, and the director of Recreational Park just confirmed that was requested and was not approved and is still unfunded on the budget. That is a reality. It's number and it's vote and it's under public record. So everything else is a nice narrative, but the fact is that these 310 were not funded.
Councilmember Judy.
Thank you. You can say it over and over and over again, and it doesn't make it true. We're, again, let's fund the 310. Let's fund 400. Let's fund the 95,000 he's asking for. Our very esteemed Parks and Rec director would not be standing in front of us asking for $95,000 to fund a plan if he didn't believe it was necessary. He wouldn't be standing in front of us asking to fund a plan that wasn't in our strategic plan that we just saw for an hour before this in a workshop. Again, all this is moving of shells for political rhetoric. Let's move on. Let's vote on this. Let's fund the parks. Let's fund them fully. Let's fund this plan.
Councilmember Palermo.
Again, I hear a lot of political rhetoric and just trying to change what actually happened, which was it was voted down. We have a big philosophical disagreement that it sounds like half the council feels one-time federal money that's not meant for recurring items should just be used for annual maintenance. And we have half the council that feels annual maintenance needs to be included in the annual budget, and we need to be fiscally responsible to really have a balanced budget doing that. But again, what we've seen for years and consistently is we've seen a majority that is just consistently ramming through exactly what they want with no compromise, no consensus building, and clearly there's a goal of just ignoring the 310,000, whatever amount that is tonight, and just focusing on this. But I propose a compromise. I strongly believe that one-time federal money should not be used for annual maintenance. Here's the compromise I propose, which I think is really a win-win here. Urgently, we have immediate needs as presented by staff at a recent meeting, way bigger than the $300,000+ in immediate needs. So what I propose as a compromise is tonight, this $95,000, we move to annual maintenance, let our staff get to work and start maintaining the parks more than they're currently funded for. And then this $95,000, when we have that federal money, when we're actually going through and walking through what are the things that we want to look at that federal money going towards, let's then discuss that $95,000. I think it's a win-win because we have immediate needs for maintenance and we don't have immediate need for another 5-year plan that we just don't execute on. So I think it's a fair compromise just to bring this plan forward in that federal discussion and really make sure our staff is being funded for more maintenance immediately.
Mr. Luckett, would you mind coming forward? I'd like clarification on whether plans qualify under the federal money.
I believe they would. It's a matter of providing services to residents as long as we use it as part of the category related to the revenue loss, then it would fit, I think, within the guidelines from the federal government.
Thank you. Councilmember Tizer.
Thank you. I'd actually like to make a compromise to your compromise, Councilmember Palermo. My compromise would be to approve the request of our Director of Parks and Rec for his 5-year master plan. It's necessary so that the properties we own, we hear from our citizens what they want us to do with them. So I'd like for them to be able to get started on that. But my compromise to your compromise is to approve that tonight, item number 7, but also to approve $95,000 from our Federal CARES Act money for the projects, for the project part, the one-time project parts that would have been in the 385 plan.
Councilmember Palermo.
I don't see how that was a compromise, given that was the position of the majority of the council the entire time. Again, I am adamant that annual maintenance should not be paid for by one-time federal money. And so if we're going to look for a compromise here and fund more of that maintenance, then what I propose is we look in the budget and see where we should have made cuts. For example, one that I advocated for was regarding staff travel. There is so much more opportunity for people to be able to do virtual learnings, virtual conferences, all these different aspects. Why are we paying such high or budgeting such high staff travel when we're not even paying for the annual maintenance of our parks?
Additional comments from council? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Please come forward. And I would like to remind everyone to fill out a comment card and leave it at the podium when you speak.
My name is Sue Dupart. I live at 500 Shadowwood Court. I've been a docent at Barrington Hall for over 10 years, and it's really sad when a Roswell resident, a retired gentleman, volunteer docent, falls through the back porch because the wood constructing the back patios of both back doors were constructed with indoor wood. This is a safety hazard. If someone else fell through that wood and sued the city would be liable. When people come from out of town, well-educated people, and we don't have well-educated historic degree people facilitating the museums anymore, so there's some salary money that could be used to redo the patio to make it safe instead of having caution tape. When someone's first impression to see the 1800s house on the hill in downtown Roswell is caution tape over the back staircase, it's not at all impressive of a historic district. And knowing that when the park isn't open during prom season, there are a lot of high school kids that come up and do photo shoots there. Somebody could have been far dangerously crippled. I mean, a broken pelvis and, repositioning a bladder. I've heard of surgeries before on teenagers that could be very complex. And it is a safety hazard that this gentleman, who happens to be Canadian but lives in Brickleberry, a very nice neighborhood in Roswell, was injured as a volunteer falling through the back porch, where now there's caution tape all over that staircase. It's not a good first impression for coming to see the house. And I know that the back door isn't used, that you only enter the front door, so there might be fire hazard safety, conditions we're violating. But it's really sad to see that house unraveling, in this state, where I know there was careful budgeting to recreate the original gate with a pedestrian entrance that was installed a few years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come forward.
Janet Russell, Roswell resident since 1973. I think that my impression is the city's a joke. The joke is we hire a consulting firm to create a plan, and then we have the plan reviewed by a committee, and then the committee sends it to some volunteers who review a survey that was sent out to the citizens, so it can go back to another committee to be referred to another consulting firm, and then it's all ignored. And a good example, $2 million we spent on the city green ideas in 7 years ago? $2 million. And nothing happened because it was a disaster. If you don't know about it, I'll be happy to share with you afterward. It was $1.5 million, and then they added another 500,000. As far as maintenance goes, we have really great parks. I meet people every single day that I talk about our parks, and I tell them we have the opportunity to do every day what some people wait all year to do for 1 week on vacation. We have visitors. I met 2 that have arrived here from New Zealand, are now living in Roswell. 2 other people moving from Chicago. Another family moving from South Africa. They're all coming here. You can't let the house fall down while you're making plans. Life is what happens when you're making plans. And really, this is just a joke. If the consulting firm came in for $95,000 and we actually did something with what they said, but we don't. It's just a complete joke. Committees, for consulting firms to refer to committees, to be ignored. Everybody in Metro Atlanta laughs at Roswell for that, and it's really sad. So I would hope that you would have some common sense, because our parks and our historic buildings, no one says, hey, let's go to Roswell. They have a Target and a Kohl's and 2 Home Depots. Nobody. They come here for what we have. We won the geography lottery. Remember, I coined that phrase. Nobody else did. I did. And you know what we're doing? We're squandering our lottery winnings, just like the guy that wins $5 million, and at the end of 2 years, he's dead broke. And that's what we're doing. So we stop. I don't think we need a 5-year plan unless you absolutely match it with money to maintain our parks. That we spending more now on a legal firm to do an investigation of Oxbow Road than we are for maintaining our parks is an outrage.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come forward and speak? Seeing no one approach, Councilmember Judy.
Thank you, Mayor. I spoke to a family yesterday that moved here from London, and one of the main reason they moved here from London is because of our parks. To say nothing is happening in our parks, and our parks are not gold medal level, and we're not following plans and doing things is, again, not true. We are lucky to have the parks we have. We have a great staff, and we have great programs, facilities, et cetera. I agree. Like I said, I don't care where the money comes from. So if you want to take $95,000 and pay for because I want to fully fund it. So again, the money's gonna be there. So if you take 95 that we're gonna use on the plan tonight and put that into maintenance, and then we take 95 from the CARES Act and do the plan, then it's great. We got both of them. So if we want to compromise, let's compromise. Let's do 95 for the plan. Let's do 95 for the maintenance. I don't care where the money comes from because the maintenance money is coming anyway. So let's just do both, get it done, and move on. Again, fully fund it all. We've got the money to do it. Let's do it.
Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. So, I have conversation with residents, taxpayers that ask me, one day, one resident called me and said, Marcelo, you need to come right here, East Roswell Park, the bathrooms under the tennis court, and you need to see how much update and upgrade this bathroom needs. So, okay, fine, I'll be there in 10 minutes, sir. So I show up there, and he walked me through the bathrooms, very 70s, maybe early 80s, when Councilmember Judy was a kid there, probably. And he said, look, I invite my friends from Alpharetta, Johns Creek, to come and play tennis here. And they come here and say, hey, do you pay taxes? I said, yes, I do. And the gentleman said, so then they asked me, so where are they? Where are they? I mean, why don't we play in Alpharetta now, tennis, that we have newer bathrooms, older gentlemen with older friends that they needed, more update facilities. And I said, look, you got a point. You got a point. I will never forget this. This was probably 2 years ago, this conversation. And then when you talk to residents and they call you because they notice this, or the roots are coming out on the trails on East Roswell Park, and then you can trip in there, that is not right. That is not right. And also talk to residents and point out things that they need to get improved and they need to get better. So again, and I want to recognize here the vice chair of our Recreation Commission. Thank you so much for being here and listen to the conversation today, because this year I've been participating on the regular meetings, and I keep getting asked, when is this money coming from maintenance? The 310, when is this money coming? So I recognize and I appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today, and it's important, to do that. And then, at 95, and I'm ready to make a motion, but 95 still is not even close to 310. Let's put it, we can compromise all day long, but 95 is not even close to 310. So, but I would like to make a motion when all the discussion is done here.
Councilmember Wilsey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have questions for Mr. Luckett, please. I am just looking over the department request for allocation of the ARPA funds, and I heard the statement a few minutes ago that maintenance shouldn't be funded out of excess funds like this. They should be funded out of ongoing revenue. It looks to me like there's a large percentage of those requests that are for ongoing maintenance. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct, and that is one of the purposes of the funds that were given by the federal government to help cities to catch up on some of those needs as they begin to recover, correct?
Yes, the revenue loss category includes, once we recognize the loss, we can use those funds for any government services, and it specifically mentions maintenance of infrastructure.
Right. So, and those funds, are they available for disbursement right now? I mean, is that 310 available to be allocated to the parks for maintenance?
Yes.
It is. So I'm not quite sure why we're having this argument if the funds are available for both needs that the Parks Director has identified. Thank you.
Councilmember Judy.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Davison, can we allocate the 310 tonight out of the, in a motion with the 95, if we wanted to, from the funds?
That might be better for Ryan, but I think it would require a budget amendment in order to get the funding mechanism.
It would require a budget amendment, yes.
Okay, so we'd have to do it later on.
I think they could do it now, though, actually.
Yeah, unless there's a legal reason they can't. But from
You
my
can
view,
do
it's
a
available
budget
in the
amendment
budget
now.
amendment.
It's not against the law to do a budget amendment.
Okay, so to stop all this, why don't we fully fund it all tonight? And I will be making a motion to fully fund all of this evening when we get to a motion, because enough with the political rhetoric.
Councilmember Palermo.
Thank you. So first of all, what I just heard was, I feel some bullying. I heard the liaison over Parks and Rec say he was going to be making a motion. And again, this is a Parks item. And I heard somebody running for re-election saying they're going to do it. What we also all agreed upon in committee was that this federal money is something that should be done and dispersed transparently with input from the residents. We said we were going to go out to the residents, we were going to hear from them. So we should be funding this amount that I requested and Councilman Zapata and Councilmember Hall requested we fund back in May. We should be funding it tonight, but we should be doing it from our annual budget, and we should actually be sharpening our pencils and making some cuts. For example, to staff travel, we have the money for it. This money, this almost $12 million, it is not our money. It is the people of Roswell's money. And we should not be just deciding because there's an election coming up, quickly parts have to be rushed because of poor decisions made with this annual budget. So here's what we should be doing tonight. What we should be doing tonight is A, funding that $310,000 from the annual budget. I've just heard we can do budget amendments. So I propose that we temporarily take it from staff travel, and then this council can work together and decide if and how we allocate that money back to staff travel. And then I think what we do is we stick to what we committed to doing in committee, which was this almost $12 million, we're going to go out to the community. We're going to hear what are the investments that they want us to make. Because, again, we're just starting to spend their money without even giving opportunity for public input, just because we weren't willing to sharpen our pencils during the annual budget. That is not fiscally responsible. I realize it's legal to do this, but it's not fiscally responsible.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually lowered my hand because that was my point on the 12 million. I understood that we were going to the public for input.
Yes, we are going through the public process with that. Additional, Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. So, first of all, I'm very excited to hear for the first time that there is support right now to approve the $310,000 through a budget amendment, which is a little bit more complicated, maybe a little bit less transparent, but that's fine. I might take it this time just to get it done. I didn't want to force this vote on my colleagues or some of my colleagues, but definitely I will take them to move forward with $310,000, much requested by the Rec Commission as well. So I'll be making a motion then, if I get some instruction of where the funds will come, how will have to be the process of the budget amendment on the fly here tonight. That will be great. And then we can, if there's also $95,000 for the master plan on top of the 310, which is a priority. And I'm glad that now all council members seems to be supporting the $310,000 much needed maintenance. So I'll be ready to make a motion, but I need to understand a little bit better the process of the budget amendment here right now tonight on the dais.
Councilmember Zapata, I haven't called for a motion yet. Councilmember Judy.
Thank you, Ryan. Here's what I find ironic. The public wants maintenance. It's one of the top things they want. Now tonight, we're hearing, nope, we need to go back to the public, see if they want maintenance. So do we want maintenance or not? Again, I said I don't care where the money comes from. Here's what I'm worried about is, can you fund travel and stuff out of the ARPA funds if we take it out of the budget? Because we have staff that have to keep up their certifications. They have to go to different events. And I want to make sure that we're able to keep enough travel money in the budget so they can do that. So I'm not sure we can just go and cut all our staff travel right now and not pull that money out of the ARPA money. Mr. Luckett, for that type stuff, can you use it for ARPA?
That's a tough question. I believe we probably could, but I would like the opportunity to look into that a little more before I say for sure.
How much money do we have, I don't recall off the top of my head, in the staff travel budget?
I apologize, I don't have that information with me this evening. But
So we don't even know if we have 310,000 in there?
In the travel alone, I don't believe so. But if you combine the travel and the education and training, it's two separate budgets, then it probably is more than that. I know it is. Yeah.
Okay. So, again, I think it's pretty clear that the public would want us to fund, which we were going to do the whole time, the maintenance this year because we knew it was coming. But if we want to move the shell game again tonight with money, we can do that because I don't care where the money comes from because it's always been our intention to fully fund that and to fully fund this plan. So to fully fund the park. So let's work through it up here and get to where we fund it, and then we can figure it out on the bookkeeping side, moving the shells afterwards.
Councilmember Tizer.
Thank you. You sat down just a moment too soon, Brian. I think I might have a way to handle this, but I wanted to ask you first. Out of the prior year budget, I think we have some remainder. Could we fund this 310 from that tonight so we don't have to think about where we might or might not take it without really doing some good solid due diligence?
Yes, we could. We're still working through our end-of-year process, so I don't have an exact number, but I'm positive that it's more than 300.
So would you be comfortable with the 310 coming from there tonight? That way we can talk about staff travel and other things later when someone's had a time to put a pencil to it. But we could fund the 310 from there. We can fund the 95 because that's, today I think 70 of it is in the budget already, and another 25 is relatively comfortable to find a place for it. And that would be my suggestion, folks. Let's just do it and get it done.
Councilmember Judy.
Thank you, Mayor. That's the reason you were CFO of a very large company, Mr. Tizer. Thank you for your expertise in that. I would fully support that this evening. As I said before, I've been for fully funding it all along and funding the master plan. So looking forward to getting this done.
Councilmember Palermo.
I would much prefer to be making some cuts from our record-breaking largest budget ever. But that being said, I think this is a fine compromise. And again, if you look at the voting record, you'll see that I truly was for funding the parks from the very beginning. And I strongly believe that it needs to be funded every year in that annual budget, not just hoping for federal bailouts with large amounts of money to cover annual costs. But again, I think we have a compromise here. And again, I will definitely support that $310,000 coming from that excess from the prior year.
Councilmember Wilsey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think that we would all be 100% supportive of fully funding the parks maintenance when the funds are available. Sometimes we have to make some tough decisions as elected officials because there are, a lot of competing priorities. But I would definitely be supportive of this compromise that's being proposed.
Councilmember Zapata, I know that you had requested that you need assistance with the motion, but could you basically frame what motion you're willing to make, and we'll have staff back you up on it?
Yes, will be a motion to first approve the $310,000 for maintenance. That then I would like to double check with our finance director of the funds for the 310, and then the second part of my motion will be to approve the $95,000 for the 5 years master plan. Also, we'd like to know from the finance director where the funds will be coming for the $95,000.
So the budget amendment for the $310,000 would just be appropriating $310,000 from general fund balance, and that will cover that part. For the master plan, Mayor and Council approved $70,000 back in the FY 2021 mid-year budget, so that's already approved and available for this project. And the Recreation and Parks Department identified $25,000 in available funding from projects that are completed to make up the difference. And so that's already included as part of this agenda item.
Great, thank you.
So,
yes, motion to approve $310,000 from the general fund for maintenance and $95,000 from which I guess we're short 25 that will come from the same department reallocation of funds to get to $95,000 for the 5-year master plan.
I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tizer. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Environmental and Public Works Department. Councilmember Palermo.
Thank you, Mayor Henry. Item number 5, approval for the mayor and/or interim city administrator to sign a permanent easement for the Fulton County Water Vault at the City of Roswell Transfer Station.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the easement for the new water vault at the Roswell Transfer Station, which is currently under construction. Fulton County, as our water provider there, requires this easement.
Council have any questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve item number 5.
Motion by Councilmember Palermo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Judy. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it is Judy, Palermo, Wilsey, Hall, and Zapata. For the record, Councilmember Tizer is absent for this vote. Thank you. Next up is Recreation and Parks Department, Councilmember Zapata.
Sorry, let's go again. Item number 6 of today's agenda, approval of the historic asset rental fee schedule and local vendor program.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's good to see everyone. I'd just like to take this opportunity to report back on some questions that were raised during committee meeting previously regarding the rental policy and proposed vendor program. First of all, I would like to point out that based on your recommendation, we will be including the 10% off discount for Roswell citizens, and we will work through that to incorporate that. We also, when reviewing the policy again, decided to add one additional statement to section L2, which speaks to staff requirements, and we wanted to highlight the fact that an attendant will be required at all rental events. And even though that this was listed in the fee schedule, we thought it would be prudent to go ahead and include this with the verbiage regarding officers during the event as well. So we added that to section L2. We also considered Councilmember Judy's question regarding filming and what is the possibility of going to a production company after the fact, after something has already been filmed, if it was something questionable or something that the city perhaps did not agree with. I did confer with Andy Williams with the Convention and Visitor Bureau, Michael Petty with legal, and Chris Ward with special events and film permitting. And we decided that probably the best option would be to include verbiage, as you see, with section G that will be part of the policy as well as the contract, that just highlights that we will take the vetting process very seriously and what it is that we are looking for. This is probably the best route to go at this time. We think it's probably going to be difficult after the fact, but we definitely want to highlight the fact that vetting is something that we take very seriously and what exactly it is that we are looking for. We also had a question, I believe it was Councilmember Hall, asked about the previous fee structure at the historic assets. Part of your packet, you will see the fee structure with highlighted in yellow the previous fees. Overall, basically what we have done is we feel like we've taken the fees to streamline them across the site in regards to access and capacity comparison, but also with department fees and other venues. There were different fee structures based on different days of the weekend. We just made it a single fee over the weekend as well. Just trying to streamline overall what we were trying to do in terms of fees. We also had a question, I think, by Councilmember Zapata, asking about previous numbers. The numbers that I was able to find was specifically in regards to Barrington Hall. As you see above you, from fiscal year 2017 through fiscal year 2020. As you can see, it was less than $3,000 that were brought in, not too much. What we are hoping for is that the restructure of staffing with Susie McCoy, who manages the Roswell River Landing, Old Mill Machine Shop, coming underneath historic assets and marketing and combining Old Mill Machine Shop, River Landing with the historic assets with Mimosa Hall, which is coming online, that we'll be able to build into that program and market that program and do much more in terms of rental venue revenue and attendance. So that's just a brief overall of questions. Happy to take your questions at this time.
Council have any questions? Yes, Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you. Yeah, clear, nice presentation. And I'm so glad to see that you also include what I requested on committee meeting about the 10% for also Roswell citizen discount. I see that it's here now. That is great. That was not included during the committee, but I'm glad that you took the recommendation and included it in this presentation. And then going back to the previous slide here, this one, perfect, thanks. So I will assume that we have data only on Barrington Hall rentals. We don't have data of the other historic assets?
From what I could not find, no, sir. Which really doesn't surprise me. I know just from anecdotally speaking with previous staff members, Smith really did not focus on rentals. Barrington was in the best position. When I came on board, they had hired a part-time staff member to help coordinate rentals, and they were doing their best to up that business. And this, I think, is what you see is reflected of that. In terms of Bullock Hall, that was operated and managed with Friends of Bullock, and that revenue went to Friends of Bullock, which is one of the changes that we are making.
Great. So yes, through these numbers, there's two things to consider here. The number of rentals and the price for the rentals. So I think that, it's great to start with the number here, but we have to keep a really close eyes and follow up the data.
Yes.
To see, because, you have an elasticity on the price of the rental. The lower the price of the rental, the more rental you want. But then there's an equilibrium with it. You don't want too many rentals because then the cost of maintenance will be too prohibitive. So there is a medium point that we need to find between the number of rentals that we want to carry through the year on each of the historic assets and how much we're going to charge for these rentals. So that is a great start, and I'm glad that we start now collecting data from all the different historic assets, so then we can review this in a few months from today and see, look, are we charging too much that we don't get any rentals? Or also, this another component here of the rental is the marketing, how we market these historic homes. So not only the price of the rental, but also how we market that. So when we get those two right together, then we can analyze, are we on the right number of rentals per year that we would like to target or not? So those are my two comments of that, but it's a great start, and I'm excited to move forward this.
Yes, sir, thank you. And I will say it is a high priority of mine to really be careful with data collection and retention and organizing that. I will want to know the referrals, how clients are hearing of us, where they're coming from, what percentage of the discounts are they using, and so forth. So that will be very high priority for us. That will roll up into reports that we would like to produce annually. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity with Mimosa Hall coming on board. I know we're all excited about that. And I think this will only give us better opportunity to highlight all of the assets. And mentioning Mimosa Hall, if I can put in a shameless plug, I just would like to remind everyone, we do have our opening this Wednesday from 5 to 7. I know that you're all aware, but definitely for the public too. We're extremely excited. Staff is working very hard, so we hope to see everyone there. So any other questions?
Council have any questions? Is there anyone in the public that, yes, ma'am, please come forward.
I find the numbers.
Please identify yourself.
Janet Russell, Roswell resident. Nothing's changed since 10 minutes ago. And I am not running for office, though perhaps I should have. I'm curious on this 2020 number, total revenue, $2,700. We were in a total lockdown. How did we have more money revenued from that one than the 3 previous years when no events were allowed to happen in the city of Roswell? So I kind of question this money. I'm not saying it's you, but I have to question this data. It's got to be false. It's got to be wrong, because nothing happened last year. We all know that. It was a blur, and yet it had the highest revenue? I don't think so. No. I plan events. I sell travel, by the way, and I can help you with your travel budget in this city. I offered years ago when I discovered there was no travel policy in the city like corporations have. So I'm just curious about that. As far as the other historic homes go, I'm glad to see there is a discount for Roswell residents. We don't get a discount on much of anything in the city. We don't get, discounted tickets to this or discounted tickets to that, but we do pay our property taxes. I think our historic assets are extremely undervalued as destinations. And once again, I'll tell you, no one cares if we have a Target, but they do care if we have the Smith Plantation or Barrington Hall or Bullock. Bullock, you won't find much information because that was really a public house for a private group of people. We all know that. I hope Mimosa doesn't go in that direction. We're all anxious to see Mimosa Hall. I never got to go in there when Sally lived there, but I would like to have. So I'm glad to see that you're going to give a discount, but I really question this data. One more thing. About 2 weeks ago, it was homecoming at Roswell High School. We all know how I remember those fun days. And I was trying to get this way through town. As you know, I live behind Thousand Hills. With the Willio Road Bridge closed now until January, and that's not a surprise, I predicted it, traffic backs up every day from the river to Barrington Hall, southbound. So I turned and I finally got out because my destination was the river, and there were thousands of people at Barrington Hall for homecoming. All the kids taking pictures, and then their friends taking the pictures of them, and the parents coming to watch the kids take the pictures of their kids. There were people parked on lawns. There was not a police officer there to direct traffic. They parked in the middle of roads. They didn't care. There has to be a way, one, that you find out, and it'll happen again when Cobb County schools have their homecomings and their proms. For some reason, they all go to Barrington Hall, and they like to take their pictures there. And I would like to ask them, have a focus group. Why did you think Barrington Hall was a great place to come and get your picture taken? Do you even live in Roswell? No, they live in Cobb County, so they don't come here and give us their dinner money. Why don't you ask these kids, what attracted you to have your picture taken there, and would you come back if we did what? What kind of plan would you like to have? Maybe the youth council here could address that. I proposed this several years ago when it was overrun with kids, and I asked parents, oh, where do you come from? Lassiter, Pope, all these high schools. I said, and then they all made a left turn and went down 120 back to Cobb County to spend their money at dinner. So there's no cooperation between the restaurants and our hospitality industry and our historic homes, so that we basically monetize our homes without doing anything extra to them. There's just too many silos. Nobody talks to anybody in this city about hospitality. Nobody talks about tourism and the value of it. I was the only American representative at the United Nations World Tourism Conference in Burkina Faso, and the subject was creating a sustainable tourism product for eradicating poverty in developing countries. Well, Roswell is just about that, a developing country, and we need to get our act together and make it work for all of us.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Do we have additional comments from council? Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mayor. Motion to approve item number 6, approval of the historic asset rental fee schedule and local vendor program.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Zapata. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Mr. Davidson.
Thank you, Mayor. The only item I have is a recommendation for closure to discuss personnel litigation and real estate.
Do I have a motion?
Motion for closure.
Motion by Councilmember Tizer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Judy. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. We are adjourned.